Welcome to Being Multidimensional with Ron Navarre. In today's episode, I'd like to address the dimensions of stillness and silence and talk about some simple practices for entering and exiting those dimensional spaces of experience, of reflection, and creativity. I find it helpful to look at the practice of stillness and the practice of silence as dimensional spaces that I can enter and exit at will. I choose to be still. I choose to be silent. When I make that choice, I also intend to focus on entering this dimension of stillness, this dimension of silence. And this is a subtle but very important distinction in the practice, because often we will want to be still and silent, and we may even go through the motions of attempting to create that experience and be unsuccessful because we're not clear. We do not have a clear destination in which to enter. So I practice stillness and I practice silence as separate practices, but I also combine them. In Tai Chi, we have a concept of stillness in motion and motion in stillness. So when I'm practicing the physical form of Tai Chi, my external body is in motion, and my internal focus is still. So while my body is flowing effortlessly from movement to movement, my mind is held in my center, in my breath, and does not wander. It does not travel. I don't think. I don't react. I just stay centered and grounded in the experience. That is a form of mental stillness in physical motion. In Nei Gong meditation, which is usually practiced standing up with your knees bent, the external body is relatively still. I say relatively because you have to breathe. Your body will gently expand and contract with each breath. Your heart is beating. But we have the intention to be externally still while there is this internal motion of the breath and the blood flowing easily and effortlessly through the still frame of the body. The importance of having a practice of stillness, a practice of silence, is crucial in today's world, which is so busy, so noisy and active. If you do not have a period of time, anywhere from a minute to 20 minutes throughout your day, to be still, to be quiet, you will drain your energy. You will become mentally fatigued and often exhausted from ceaseless activity, both mentally and physically. So, taking the time to pause, to be still, to breathe, to quiet your mind, to calm your heart, to allow your energy to flow naturally and find its equilibrium is an essential practice for staying healthy, for being creative, and just for your sanity in this wild and wacky world we all live in. Stillness is a way to empty the vessel of your body and mind so that you can feel your authentic presence and resonance. And when I say resonance, I mean this internal vibration that is connected to your authentic presence. I like to call it your soul song name. So your soul song name is the resonance and vibration of your unique note or signature in the world and in the universe. We all have our own authentic, specific, and unique presence. But it is challenging to connect to that, to provide the space to allow that resonance to just hum or sing very lightly and announce your presence to the world. It is through stillness and silence that we have the opportunity to sense this within ourselves. And there are many, many people who have no sense of their authentic presence, of their own resonance, because they are in a state of constant activity and immersed in an ocean of noise. Stillness is a way to open and receive inspiration and communication from our soul and from divine source. Our soul mind is constantly communicating to us, trying to guide us toward fulfillment every moment of every day. We often are not aware of it. And if we do become aware of it, we often dismiss it because it is this quiet voice that is saying, slow down, pause, breathe, listen, feel, ask the question, what do I need right now? But if you are so active and so busy, you do not even consider it. You just dismiss it and brush it aside and shift your focus to one of a million other points of interest. So part of my practice of being still, of being quiet, is providing the space to open and receive transmission or communication from my soul, mind, my soul consciousness, and divine consciousness. I will enter that space with the intention of just listening, breathing and listening in silence and stillness. Sometimes I receive a transmission, an image, a thought, a feeling, or an instant knowing something. Sometimes I receive nothing, and I am allowed simply to rest, to balance, and to let go of my attachments that keep me in a constant state of reactivity. It's important when you intend to enter your sacred space of stillness and silence that you enter it without expectation, that you enter it without judgment. Our minds are very active, and we have been programmed to have very short attention spans through our technology. And when we enter that space and we start to focus on our breathing or on a mantra to focus our attention, it may last a few minutes, and in some cases a few seconds, and then thoughts come in, images come in. It's important to acknowledge those thoughts and images, but not to attach. Let them come and let them go, let them flow through your body and into the ground without judgment. Don't be hard on yourself, folks. This is a practice. Some days it'll be relatively easy, other days very challenging, depending upon what you are processing in that moment. Stillness is a way to clear the mind, calm your heart, and allow your energy to balance and find equilibrium. And this is essential for health, healing, and creativity. It's a challenge to be healthy and creative if you are constantly in motion, both internally in your mind and externally in your body and environment. You have to have a sense of balance. Otherwise, you're going to feel stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed. The remedy to those feelings is stillness and silence. And I am speaking from my own experience of a lifetime of negotiating with anxiety and the belief of being busy as a way to achieve success and self-worth. And what I have come to experience and understand is those beliefs do not allow for stillness and silence. Our society does not encourage it. So we are led to believe that we have to be constantly busy all the time, otherwise we have no value or we are not a productive person. That is a distortion of belief. Stillness and silence is the womb space for all creativity. Stillness combined with silence is the gateway to all interdimensional travel and exploration. I've talked about it before, about shifting dimension, D-shifting, capital D, dimensional shifting. Imagine stillness as a dimensional space that you will shift into. Very much like opening a doorway and entering a room of stillness, entering a space of silence. That is a dimensional shift into an experiential space, the space of stillness, the space of silence. And they can be individual. You can be still and not silent. You can be silent and not still. Or you can combine the two and be silent and still simultaneously. There's no right or wrong way. Play with this. Play with the practice of intending to shift into stillness or shift into silence. And just allow it. Don't force it. Just allow it and see how it feels. See what you discover. And eventually, you will begin to understand the value, the immense value of these dimensional spaces. Creativity, inspiration often comes when the mind is free or fluid and relatively detached. What I just described is one dimension within silence and stillness. It is a relative state. You can't be absolutely still, otherwise you're dead. And absolute silence might be a bit overwhelming. So it's a relative state that you enter. If you have an expectation of it being absolute, you will be disappointed, you will react accordingly. Silence is a way to hold an inner space so that you can feel yourself. Stillness allows you the space to sense where you are, what is present, what you're holding on to. Silence and stillness together is like this beautiful, clear reflection on a still pond or a mirror. It is when we get into that dimensional space, we can see clearly, sense clearly, and let go of whatever we are currently attached to. When you are silent and still, you have this enormous space to sense and observe. When you are constantly engaged in inner dialogue or speaking out loud or expressing yourself emotionally, you have no space to sense and feel any subtlety. When you are engaged at that level, you are really just focusing on the dominant feeling or intention of the moment. And as such, we are often unaware of the many other subtle streams of energy and experience that are also present in any given moment. Silence is a gateway to what we call wu wei in Taoism. Wu Wei means not doing, of being fully present without an agenda, without having to be in constant action, activity, and movement. And in that moment, we have an opportunity to observe our calm, still center within the constant motion of the external environment. Silence and stillness is a receptive state. It is a nurturing state that allows us to achieve a sense of balance. Ideally, when we go to sleep, we should have some periods in and out of dreaming where we are relatively still and quiet, mentally quiet, in which we are simply resting in that dimensional experience, in which we can let go and receive energy at the same time. I'm sure you've had the experience of waking up in the morning and feeling like you ran a marathon. You were tossing and turning all night. Your mind was constantly busy. You had intense dreams, and you wake up and you do not feel rested or balanced at all. You feel exhausted. That is the experience of being in constant motion. That happens both in our waking state and in our sleep state. It doesn't have to. We can prepare for sleep and intend to enter a quiet space of stillness so that we can rest and reflect and re-energize, or not. And we can do that with our waking practice as well. So you can practice stillness anywhere, anytime. I often practice being still while I'm riding the bus or the train. Now, the vehicle's in motion, but my intention is to be still, relatively still, not absolutely still, not frozen. I tell myself to just sit and be still. And this is a very interesting thing. When someone intends to be that still in public and on a moving train or bus, it creates a dimensional space that everyone becomes aware of. You'll find that you'll close your eyes and just become still. Just breathe and be still for a period. Open your eyes and you'll find that people are looking at you because they sense and feel the dimensional space that you are creating within yourself that emanates from within and begins to expand into your external environment. It's very, very powerful. I was once waiting on the train platform to catch a train to an airplane. And it was very busy. Lots of people on the platform. Lots of activity. And I just decided to be still. I bent my knees slightly and I just focused on breathing and just standing in stillness. And after a while, this gentleman walked up to me and he said, "You're practicing Tai Chi, aren't you?" I started to laugh. "How did you know that?" And he said, "You were the still point in the center of all this activity, and it's so obvious." And it was attractive. He said, I was attracted to your stillness because I instinctively felt that I needed that. And that is why he approached me. So stillness creates an energy and a space that is attractive. It is powerful in and of itself without any other intention. Silence is twofold. There's internal silence and external silence. Silence of the mind takes a little bit of skillful maneuvering to enter that space gently and clearly. As I said, the mind is constantly busy, thinking, chattering, associating, reacting. It can go on all day long. Getting yourself into a relative state of mental stillness and silence can be achieved in several ways. This is what meditation teaches, and there are many forms of meditation and many ways of entering the dimension of stillness and silence of the mind. One way is to just focus your attention on a single object of attention for a period of time. There are many objects that we can choose, such as our breath. If I tell myself to be physically still, and I tune in and I just focus on my breath, moment to moment, breath to breath, I notice all these extraneous thoughts and images coming in and flowing through the field of my attention and awareness. If I keep my attention on that breath long enough, that mental chatter and activity begins to fade and calm down, and then it becomes quiet, relatively quiet. I practiced that method for many years. And I say many years because it was a challenge. Sometimes I was successful, sometimes I wasn't, because I was distracted by physical sensations or external sounds that would remind me of something. And then I would associate with that sound and then begin thinking and reacting. So often in my practice at home, I will use some modern technology, some over-the-ear noise-canceling headphones to block out external sound. And once I turn it on, I really don't hear very much at all. The occasional really loud sound, high-pitched sound like a siren will break through. But for the most part, it filters out about 90% of external sound. This is helpful because it minimizes distraction. It lessens my habit of shifting focus to a sound with my mental attention. So I put on my headphones, I sit or I lie down, and now I begin to breathe. And if I'm having difficulty centering my attention in my breath, I will use one of several mantras. And a mantra is a saying, an intention. And it could just be a sound, such as Om. So I can breathe in and either say it verbally, Om, Om, over and over again. And what this does is it gives another dimension to my focus, which is the vibration of sound within the body. I begin to vibrate and resonate at the frequency of Om. It can be a slightly more complicated mantra, and one of them that I use, especially when my mind is full and attached and busy, I will use a mantra called Dim Tai Yi Do. Dim Tai Yi Do. Dim Tai Yi Do means dance of the formless way, but it can also be a mantra for centering the attention in the breath. And this is how I practice it. As I breathe in, I silently say to myself, Dim Tai Yi. As I exhale, Do. Dim Tai Yi. Do. Now, you can't really say Dim Tai Yi on the inhale, so you say it silently in your mind. And notice how the Yi, which in Chinese means mind, is elongated or extended. That is as I continue to breathe in, and fill my physical body, gently with as much breath as I can before I release it on the do. I breathe in and say, dim, tai, yi, for as long as I can breathe in, yi. Exhale, do. Now you can say do verbally, and you'll feel a release from your chest, from your belly. Do. It's like a sigh. Do. Or it can all be silent. Silently saying dim tai yi as you breathe in, silently releasing do in your mind. So this is a little more complicated than just an om. It depends. Sometimes I can get to that space, I can enter the space of relative stillness and silence by just breathing. Sometimes just by om. And if I've, in the process of trying to problem solve or process some big emotional experience, and I'm really attached to it, then I will use dim tai yi do, because it's impossible to think about whatever problem I'm trying to solve or experience I'm trying to process if I give my full attention to those words, those syllables. So this is how I approach my process. And let me also say that often in the day, if I start to feel anxious or overwhelmed or suddenly tired, like, oh my God, my energy is just draining out, I use that as my cue, my signal to practice. I've learned that it's my body's way of telling me it's time to practice. And the amount of time can be just a few minutes or longer. If you want to set a timer for yourself of 5 minutes, of 10 minutes, you can do that. If you don't have any agenda, practice as long as you feel comfortable. Now, I'll also say that I often enter higher dimensions through my practice. When I intend to go into the sacred space and dimension of stillness and silence, I will get there and find myself shifting into other dimensions of exploration. Sometimes I meet some of my spirit guides in those dimensions that wish to communicate to me. Sometimes I enter the realm of my imagination, where I have an impulse to be creative. Sometimes I just rest. I cannot emphasize enough the value of just resting. Give the gift of quiet, still silence and rest to yourself. There's one more aspect to this that I'll mention, and that is I created a sacred space in my imagination. It is what I call the chamber of silence and stillness, and in my mind, it is a pyramidal shape. It is like a pyramid within a bigger pyramid, an isolated room inside a larger room. And this gives me a buffer zone of silence and stillness where I will not be disturbed. So when I choose to enter that space, I become physically still, center into my breath, soften my focus, and imagine a doorway in a pyramid that I enter. I close that outer doorway, and I walk through this quiet stillness, and there's another smaller pyramidal room with a doorway. I enter that one. Then I close that door, And now I am in my sacred space. It can be any shape or any environment that you imagine. Keep it simple. Keep it simple so that you're not distracted by too many dimensional objects of attention. It can be underwater. It can be in outer space. It can be in your temple or your church or in nature. You create that space within yourself. Give that gift to yourself. That is your sacred fortress of solitude. Soften, smile, breathe. Allow all the holding and the tension in your physical body to soften and melt and flow down through your body and into the ground, like water seeping into the soil. Soften the focus in your eyes with an inner smile. Breathe gently and fully. Observe the stillness of your physical body. Release your attachments. Release your emotional charges with each breath. Easily and effortlessly let them flow out of the body, out of the mind, into the ground. And now, as you observe your relative state of stillness within your body, enter your fortress of solitude, your sacred space of silence in your mind. Close the door behind you. And if you wish to simply breathe and observe that silence and rest, give that to yourself. Allow this space and time. If you wish to use a mantra to center your mind into stillness of single object attention, use whichever mantra works for you now. Now dim tai yi do. Breathe in. Dim tai yi. Exhale. Do. Dim tai yi. Do. One more. Dim tai yi. Do. Rest in stillness. Reflect in silence. Breathe easily and effortlessly. Release and detach. Breathe and flow without judgment or expectation. Thank you, my friends.